So you give your kid an iPhone, you set up parental controls, and you just expect that they're going to work. This is Apple, and we're talking about protecting our kids online. What could be more important? Surely parental controls just work on the iPhone, right? Wrong. Apple has had some serious issues with parental controls on their iPhone. I'll take you through 5 big gaps in parental controls, and I'll guide you on how you can close those gaps down and keep your kids safe when they're using an iPhone. A go-to parental control on the iPhone is the ability to limit the amount of time your kids use a particular app. For example, let's say that you wanted to limit the amount of time that your kids could use Instagram to just 30 minutes a day. You can easily make that setting change within parental controls on the iPhone. Okay. Hey, if you were trying to follow along with those steps to set up a time limit on an app for your kid's phone, a better video to check out is the companion video to this one. I put a link in the description below. In that video, I take you through how to set up and configure parental controls on your kid's iPhone. Now, let's get back to how you can close the gaps in iPhone's parental controls. Thanks. But here's the catch. Your kids may have figured out that there's a simple solution to work around that. When they're using the app, they get to the time limit. All they need to do is delete the app and then reinstall it. And now the time limit is reset, and they can continue using the app as long as they like. They can do this as many times as they want over and over again, effectively eliminating the time limit that you set. There is a simple solution for this, and it's removing the ability for your kids to delete apps from their phone. Let me show you how to do that. Open up Settings on your phone and scroll down to where it says Screen Time. Now you want to scroll down to your child's name and tap on that. Once you're there, scroll down again to where it says Content and Privacy Restrictions and tap on that. Now go ahead and tap on iTunes and App Store purchases. And where it says deleting apps, if it says don't allow, you're good. But if it says allow, you need to change that to don't allow. So tap on where it says deleting apps, allow, and select don't allow. It'll prompt you for your screen time passcode. Go ahead and enter that in. And remember, only you should know that passcode. And now you're all set. The next time they are using the app, for example, Instagram, and they reach their time limit, they won't be able to delete the app and reset the clock. One of the biggest issues Apple has had with parental controls on the iPhone is that they just disappear. Parents set up their parental controls, they make sure that they're working, then they check back in on their kid's phone sometime later, and the parental controls are just gone. Thousands of users have complained about this in Apple's online community forums, and the Wall Street Journal even did a major news article about the failure of Apple's parental controls. Apple finally fixed this issue in iOS 17.1. So to make sure that you don't have this issue with your kids' parental controls, upgrade to the latest version of iOS, and this should not be an issue for you. The fact that those parental controls would just disappear from iPhones was caused by a bug in the software, and it took Apple almost a year to fix that bug. This highlights a really vital point, and that is we can use the tools that these technology companies like Apple give us to help protect our kids, but we can't rely on them so heavily that we disengage. The best parental control of all is your engagement. Only you can put the parent in parental controls. And that means checking in on a regular basis to make sure that your child's activity with their iPhone is appropriate and it's what you would expect. Another parental control on the iPhone is something called communication safety. Communication safety uses machine learning on the device, your child's phone, to detect if nude photos or videos are being sent or received. This works in messaging, this works for FaceTime, it works for AirDrop, it even works if your child's in their Photos app and then they choose to share a photo or video using a third-party app. In all those cases, communication safety will detect the nude content and it will pop up a series of screens asking the child if they feel safe, if they want to talk to an adult before taking this step, but ultimately it allows the child to decide if they want to proceed. I want to emphasize this point. Communication safety, as it's currently implemented, doesn't notify you, the parent, that this sort of activity is happening. You won't receive a real-time alert. You won't see this posted in the activity logs when you review your child's activity for the week, nor do you have the ability to say, don't allow this to happen. This has a lot of parents scratching their head. What in the world was Apple thinking when they implemented communication safety this way? What value does it really provide? I think Apple has finally tuned in to the fact that this was a half measure at best. So in iOS 18, they've changed the way they implement communication safety. Now, when the machine learning detects these nude photos being sent or received, it'll blur the photos or it'll pause the sending, and it will require that your screen time passcode be entered before they can be sent or received, effectively closing this gap. That's a big deal because, frankly, this is a growing issue on the internet. Internet groomers are working on an industrial scale to find and manipulate children to share these kinds of sensitive images with them. This is a real problem. So what can you do between now and when iOS 18 is released later this year? Let me take you through some steps that don't entirely make up for the gap that Apple has in place, but will reduce the risk. And the way that we'll do that is we'll limit who your children can communicate with. You can then manage their contacts, and as long as you feel good about their contacts and who's in their contacts, then you can greatly reduce the risk of this sort of thing happening. Let me take you through those steps. Go to your phone, tap on Settings, and scroll down to Screen Time. Tap on Screen Time and then scroll down to your child's name and tap on your child's name. Now scroll down again to Communication Limits, and now select Allowed Communication During Screen Time. Tap on that and enter in your screen time passcode. And now make sure that this is set to contacts only. Okay, so now we have limited who your child can connect with to just known contacts that you trust. That greatly reduces the risk of what we've been talking about for nude photos and videos to be able to be shared or received on your child's phone. But there is one other area of risk that we just have to cover. And that is if your child has any of these social media apps or ones like them, these apps really allow your child to connect with whoever, whenever, and however. There really is not much that you can do if these apps are on your child's phone to reduce the risk of this sensitive images and content being shared with these strangers. The only thing you can do in this instance is have conversations with your kids to make them aware of this risk. And then you need to make the decision on whether or not they're mature enough to manage that risk with your help, but to manage that risk. And if not, then the best thing to do is to remove these apps from their phone until you're confident that they are. Okay, let's talk now about what I think is one of the biggest gaps in iPhone's parental controls. It doesn't have anything to do with bugs in the software or with kids figuring out how to work around limits that you set. It has everything to do with a lack of clarity from Apple about what a particular setting does and does not do. When you first set up your child's iPhone and started parental controls on their iPhone, you were presented with a screen very much like this one. And you had the chance to select where it says web content, the default, which is limit adult websites. Most parents are going to go with that setting, expecting that Apple will then prevent their kids when they're using Safari or one of the other browsers from getting to any blatantly adult content on the internet. And it does work to a large extent to do just that. But the problem is there are hundreds of thousands of adult websites on the internet. And limit adult websites only prevents your kids from browsing to a fraction of those adult websites. So if you choose limit adult websites, you're blocking a portion, but not all of the inappropriate content that's available to your kids online. And it gives parents a false sense of security that their kids are now protected when they're browsing the internet. So there's a couple of ways to manage this. The first way is to use your child's weekly check-in, or however frequently you choose to check in with them, to review in their activity log the websites that they've visited. Okay. Hey, thanks for letting me interrupt again. The easiest way for you to have regular check-ins with your kids is in screen time. Make sure include website data is set to on. Then you can go into screen time anytime you like. I recommend at least once a week with your kids and just review what they've done on their iPhone for the past week. Take a look at what websites they've been to, when they've used their phone and for how long. And just make it feel like an engaging experience so that they know you're just trying to keep them safe when they're online. And you're not trying to make it like a visit to the principal's office each time you guys check in. You might even share with them what activity you've been doing for the past week as well. All right, now back to 5 big gaps in iPhone's parental controls. Thanks. As soon as your child knows that you're on a regular basis going to step through the websites that they're visiting, that again is the best parental control of all. And it will prevent them from going to places they should not be. So you can continue to use the setting, limit adult websites, but really only if you're then putting in the effort to regularly review where they're going. There's another alternative, and that is instead of limit adult websites and letting Apple choose what those websites are, you can actually set up a filter that allows your kids to go to only the websites that you approve. This takes some upfront work because your kids will need to get to websites that you guys haven't thought about, and they'll come to you saying, can you approve this website? Can you approve this website? Can you approve this website? And at first, it could take a little bit of work. But eventually, most kids aren't constantly finding new websites to go to. They'll get most of the websites in that they use, and those requests for you to allow other websites will become fewer and far between. Let me show you how you can do that. On your phone again, go to Screen Time, scroll down to your child's name and click on that. Now, scroll down to Content and Privacy Restrictions, click on that. Now, scroll down to Store, Web, Siri, and Game Center Content. And where it says Web Content, probably at the moment it says Limit Adult Websites. Next to that, go ahead and tap on that and select Only Approved Websites. With Only Approved Websites set, you and your child can now enter in all of the websites you know that they need to get access to. And going forward, they'll come to you with requests to approve specific sites that after you've reviewed them, you can go ahead and approve and add it to the list. So those are the 2 ways to take care of this issue. A, regularly review the websites that your kids go through on a weekly basis and make sure your kids know that you're regularly reviewing where they get to. And therefore you can leave limit adult websites as the setting. Or B, set it to allowed websites or only approved websites, and then add the websites to the list that you know your child will need to use. In this way, you can close down this major gap on the iPhone. So now you know how to close 5 big holes in iPhone's parental controls. There's a lot of other gaps that have been reported in the Apple communities. We tried to find as many of those as we can and test them out. Honestly, we think most of them have been closed, but we'd really love to hear from you. Comment down below if you're at the latest version of iOS and you still know that there's some gaps. We'd love to hear from you, and the rest of the community would really benefit. If this content has been helpful, would you consider hitting the like button, please? We want to help as many parents as we can, and by hitting the like button, you'll make it easier for other parents to find this same content and protect their kids online. All right, now go have some fun with your kids. Thanks very much.